2.3. Solving a formula for a specific variable. In this session, our two main objectives are one, solving literal equations, meaning the equation has a multivariables in there, and we are looking for a specific one. And second, we will be looking at geometry type of word problems, which you need to remember the formulas of areas, perimeter, Pythagorean theorems, and some properties of the triangles. All of those, we're going to review those in this session. So first, let's take a look at on solving literal equations. Example 1. Solving this type of equation is the same thing as solving linear equation. You just have to treat the variable that we are not solving as a number. Okay? So for the first example, asking you to solve for h, and probably you remember this is a formula for area of a triangle. A is equal to 1/2 base times height. So once we see a fraction, like in previous example sections, we want to get rid of the fraction first. So I multiply both sides by 2. 2 times 1/2 base times the height. So this will become 2a is equal to 2 times 1/2 is 1, so I will only left with base times the height, b and h. And we are solving for h, so therefore we divide both sides by b. That gives us 2a divided by b, which is our final answer. Example 2. This is a area formula for a trapezoid. A equal to 1/2 h base plus a smaller base. And we are looking for a lower cut b, right? Solving for a lower cut b. So, like in solving linear equations, first step what we're going to do is we're going to distribute it. Right? Same strategy. So a equal to 1/2 h times uppercase b plus 1/2 h times lowercase b. And then we want to get rid of the fractions, so you multiply both sides by 2, the LCD. 1/2 base and height plus 1/2 h times lower cut b times 2. So on the left hand side, it will become 2a is equal to, when I distributed this 2, 1/2 times 2 will become 1, so therefore it will be hb plus, again, 1/2 times 2 is 1, so it will be h times lower cut b. And we are solving for lower cut b, right? Lowercase b, so I need to move the other term to left hand side, so meaning I subtract both sides by hb, which will give us this. And finally, to get lowercase b, I divide both sides by h. This gives us our final answer. So same strategy as before. It's just you cannot like combine it like terms anymore because they are letters, not numbers. So example 3. In this case, we are solving for lowercase r. So first, I need to get rid of the first term on the right hand side, which is meaning move s to the other side. So I subtract s to both sides. That become just rt, right? Reverse operation. And this srt, that's basically s times r times t. So I divide both sides by s and t. That give us our final answer. Next, solving the formula 5x plus 8y equal to 1. You see this type of equation a lot back in 115, which is elementary algebra, right? When we draw the lines. So solving for y, so first I need to subtract 5x to both sides. So this is how I'm going to write it down. Negative 5x plus 1. And then you divide by 8 to both sides. So y is equal to negative 5x plus 1 divided by 8. And I would like you to write it into this format, which is splitting down these fractions, plus 1 8. Okay? Because this will be the format that we will use again in the future to draw the equation of a line. So these are solving literal equations. Next up is geometry applications. So you need to remember a lot of formulas. Formulas for the perimeter, area of any figure, like rectangle, triangle, so on and so forth. A circle, yeah. And Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equal to c squared for the right triangle, which is your a, b, and a c right here. And this is a theorem for angles of triangle, measurement of angle of triangles. So if you add all the angles inside the triangle, then it is equal to 180 degrees. So that means if you have A, B, C, so angle A plus angle B plus angle C, that must be equal to 180 degrees, and so on and so forth. And we will use the same strategy as in previous session, which full step format to do the prompts. So let's start with example 1 on this type of prompt. A triangle door has an area of 15 square feet. The height is 5 feet. What is the length of the base? So in this case, what we don't know is the base. So I will say that measure of the base of a triangle, let that be equal to x. Now, since we are talking about area, so you need to remember area of a triangle. That's the formula, which is 1/2 base times the height. 1/2 times the base times the height. And then you just plug it in. Okay, you just plug it into this formula. So this formula is not necessary to write it down, but just to recall for us. Okay? So that means the area is 15, 1/2 times my base, we don't know, so that would be x, times with the height, which is 5 feet. So if you multiply on the right hand side, this will become 1/2 times 5 is 5/2 x. That's what we get. And to solve for this equations, right? To solving for this equation, you can do two different ways. One is clearing the fractions. The other one is multiplied by reciprocal. Since we are doing clearing the fractions, we will do it this way. Multiply by 2 to both sides. So that gives us 30 is equal to 5x. And finally, you divide both sides by 5, which will become 6. So x is representing the base of the triangle. So finally, my last step is interpreting the measure of the base of triangle is 6 feet. That would be my final answer. Example 2. The width of a rectangle is 8 yards, less than twice the length. The perimeter is 86 yards. Find the length and the width. So in this problem, we don't know the measurement of the length of a rectangle, and we don't know the measurement of the width of the rectangle. Now, like in the previous sessions, we saw this kind of situation before. I have two unknowns. They have a relation between each other because it said that the width of a rectangle is 8 yards less than twice the length. So in order to know the width, we need to know the length first. So therefore, I can say that let x be equal to the measure of the length of a rectangle. And the width will become twice the length and then 8 yards less than of it. Finally, we're going to use these expressions to set up the equations. And this time you have to pay attention on the perimeter. So what is the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle? Perimeter is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. That's the perimeter formula. And we just have to plug it in correctly in the software. So 86 is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Now, solving this, distributing on the right hand side, that will become 2x plus 4x minus 16. Combining like term on the right hand side, 6x plus minus 16. Now, to solve for the variable, I need to add 16 on both sides. So when I add 16 on both sides, this will be 102 is equal to 6x. And dividing both sides by 6, that will become 102 divided by 6 is 17. Finally, we can interpret it. The question is asking you to find out both the length and the width, so I can say that the length of the rectangle is 17 yards because the length is represented by x, right? So x is equal to 17. The width of the rectangle is, and the width is represented by this expression, so we need to do the computation. So 2 times 17 minus 8, that is basically 34 minus 8, which is 26. So we know that 26 yards. Moving on to the next question. Example 3. One side of triangle is 3 feet less than first side. The third side is 5 feet less than twice the first. Perimeter is 20 feet. Find the length of the 3 sides of the triangle. So in this case, what we don't know is all 3 sides. I don't know what is my first side of a triangle. I don't know what is the second side of a triangle. I don't know what is the third side of a triangle. Since the problems already tells you what is the first side and the third side, I would say that this one side as what? The second one, right? To make it easier for us to look at it, the problem. So it said that second side of a triangle is 3 feet less than the first. And also, the third side is 5 feet less than twice the first. So both of the second side and then the third side are depending on the first side. So I can say that my first side will be x. That's how you can find out your relation between, like, more than 2 unknowns cases. Okay? Which one is dependent on which one. So now, using this, I can translate it into algebraic expression. The second side is 3 feet less than the first, so it must be x minus 3. And the third side is 5 feet less than twice the first, so twice the first side and then 5 feet less than. Now we're going to be paying attention on this word perimeter, because that will help us to set up the equation. The perimeter of a triangle, that is basically adding all the sides, which is a plus b plus c, okay? Adding all the sides. So in this case, we know that perimeter is 20 feet. My first side is x, my second side is x minus 3, and my third side is 2x minus 5. So now, simplifying on the right hand side, if you get rid of the parentheses, you will see that adding x and 2x together, so that will give me 4x. Negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8. Now solving for x, so you add 8 on both sides, that becomes 28 is equal to 4x. And finally, divide both sides by 4, that will give me 7 is equal to x. Now we can interpret our answer. Step 4. The question is asking you all three sides of the triangle, so I can say that the first side of triangle is represented by x, which will be 7 feet. The second side of a triangle is represented by x minus 3, so 7 minus 3 will give me 4 feet. And the third side of a triangle is represented by this expression, so we're going to compute that. 2 times 7 minus 5, which is 14 minus 5, that gives us 9. So this will be my final answer. Moving to the next example, example number 4. The measure of one triangle, measure of angle 1 of a triangle is 25 degrees more than that of second angle. The measure of third angle is 5 more than 3 times the measure of angle 2. So in this case, what we don't know is what is the measure of angle 1 and measure of angle 2 and the measure of angle 3, these three angles. Now, like in previous example, we have more than 2 unknowns, so we're going to try to find the relationship, which one is dependent on which one. Measure of angle 1 is 25 more than the second, so angle 1 is dependent on the second one. Okay, and the measure of angle 3 is 5 more than 3 times the measure of angle 2, so angle 3 is also dependent on angle 2, so therefore I can say that my angle 2 will be x. Now we can translate it from here. Angle 1 is 25 degrees more than angle 2, so it will be x plus 25. Angle 3 is 5 degrees more than 3 times the measure of angle 2. So 3 times angle 2 and then 5 degrees more than that. Now this time we are talking about the angles of a triangle. So previously on top we mentioned about adding up all the interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees, and that allows you to set up the equation. Now, the problem will never give you that information. You have to remember that. Okay, that's a theorem. So we know that 180 degrees is equal to angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 in a triangle, all three angles. So this will become 180 degrees is equal to angle 1, x plus 25, angle 2, and angle 3, x 3x plus 5. Simplifying on the right hand side, after you dropped out all the parentheses, it will be x plus 3x, which will give me 5x. 25 plus 5 will give me 30. Now, simplifying it, solving this equation, I need to subtract 30 to both sides, which will give me 150 is equal to 5, and divide by 5 to both sides will give me 30. This allows us to interpret our last step, which is they want you to find the measure of each angle. So measure of angle 1 is this expression. So 30, the value of x is 30, so 30 plus 25 is 55. The measure of angle 2 is, angle 2 is represented by x, so that will be 30 degree. And the measure of angle 3 is represented by this expressions, which is, now we're going to compute it, 3 times 30 plus 5, which is going to be 90 plus 5 is 95. So it is 95 degree. And this will be our final answer, interpreting. Finally, it tells you the measure of hypotenuse of a right triangle is, this is important, the right triangle is 17 inches and one leg is 15 inches. Find the measure of the missing leg. So we are looking at like this kind of situations. Okay, here's a right triangle and the hypotenuse is 17 and one leg is 15, the other legs we don't know. So my first step will be missing legs is equal to x, and set it up equation is very important because in this case we're going to be using Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equal to c squared. C is your hypotenuse, so that's the reason why I drew the picture so that you can see where the hypotenuse is. So that will be 15 squared plus x squared equal to 17 squared. When you square 15, that will be 225 plus x squared equal to, when you square 17, that gives you 289. If you subtract both sides, 225, that will left with 64, and you take square root on both sides. So that will give me x is equal to negative or positive 8. And we know that the length of a triangle cannot be a negative, so my interpretation, the last step, step 4, the missing leg is 8 centimeter. And that will be our final answer.